What's going on, everybody? It's about 9:30 on Saturday morning, about ready to get this started. I'm pretty nervous about it. Actually, I'm really nervous about it. I don't know what it is. I still get excited for water changes, so this is a big deal to me. It's a lot of water volume increasing. I don't really know how the corals are affected of it, but I really don't want to lose any, and I think I have the best plan that I can come up with, so let's flip around and talk about this. So the plan right now is I'm going to shut everything down on this 55-gallon tank. I have new sand. I have not done anything with those Tonga branch rocks. I didn't have anywhere to put them, but the plan is to shut this system down, start draining it into this 55 here. Pull as much rock as I can without disturbing the sand bed. Get all the corals and all my fish in here. When I drain it down, I'm going to move this tank out of the way. I have this one on a towel. I'm going to slide it across the room into position. Start filling it back up. Have this tank over here full of rocks that have been cycling for a month or so, maybe a little longer than that. And the only thing I really hadn't planned is the aquascape into the new tank. I have looked online at a million different forums and threads, and looked at the photographic stuff, the 9 sections, the 50-30 split, but there's really no way I can come up with I got a few ideas, but actually seeing it would really help a lot. So hopefully I can come up with something good on the fly. Like I say, I've got some ideas, just have to implement them and not rush. That's my biggest thing. I get so excited and I start rushing things. My wife's really good about calming me down and settle down, and so this is where it starts right now. Here we go. Camera's kind of big. In the back, that's kind of big too. Should have done this to begin with. Hope I don't lose my siphon. And I did. But that's a good point to stop and see. Tank's about half drain. Good glare from the morning sun. But a lot of these SPS are exposed over here, so I'm going to start pulling those out and get the rocks. Watch me go. Yep. Check that out. Frag plug mounted on there. Cool. Frag rack number 2. This piece has got that Green's bird's nest and the PC rainbow, and it's got a lot of hair algae on it, so I'm gonna stop and grab a bucket, pull that hair algae off. big chunk of Hollywood stunner broke off of here. Back side of that rock's where the tricolor, the Digi's on there, tricolor, and the Bacillopora. But you can see all the white growth tips. That's all new growth. So just have to get that off of there. And this is what Hollywood stunner does. Why it's so hard to frag. It just breaks off in little pieces of chunks like that. I think I'm just gonna get the chisel and just break that rock apart. That'd probably be the easiest thing to do, is just knock all that Hollywood stunner off, sell it with the rock. This is the bird of paradise. Focus. There we go. Nothing really spectacular out of the water. This rock's got a lot of verminted snails on it. It's got a piece of bird's nest growing right here on it. I don't know which one that is. And it's got a, good Lord, it won't focus, a bunch of these yellow polyps on here. I'm going to break that apart and get those yellow polyps off before I put that new rock in the new tank. Oh yeah, I didn't mention this earlier, but I have a bunch of towels laid out. You're going to need that if you're upgrading, because it's going to make a mess. I think my water's siphoning again. The water's really low. The fish are all right here. Probably need to get those guys out of there and put them in the small tank. Alright, they're not ready yet, so I'll start grabbing these frags down here. So, the Bacillopora frag, pretty big. A bunch of these candy canes over here. Candy cane grows pretty quick for me, as you can tell with all this stuff and that big colony. I don't really ever talk about this, but this yellow-eyed favia is a pretty cool piece. I bought it as a small frag from Worldwide Corals for just a couple bucks in their cheap tank. It's grown pretty good for me. Bacons.
Where all these things come from? Are you recording?
Yes. Another piece of that bird's nest way back in the back. It's kind of dead at the bottom, but apparently it found a way to grow down there. Yeah, I don't really see any other way to do this, but there's the big rock with the big bird's nest. You can see under the bottom it was starting to die even with T5 lighting. Yeah, didn't even break it. Cool. This big piece of Bacilliform I'm not so sure about. Never mind. Okay. Alright. So the piece that broke you heard fall there was just a little rock. Bacilliform's pretty big piece, pretty big rock on it too. Running out of room in here to don't really want to stack all this stuff on top of each other, so alright, let's take a pause here for just a second. Stop and look at the tank for just a minute. This Hollywood stunner, it's got two rocks under it. I'm going to have to break those apart, but you can see it's starting to grow on the front and the side glass, so pretty large. That rock will come out easy. A few yellow polyps right there on the front of it. I'm going to knock those off. The back wall covered in those yellow polyps. This rock down here, all along the back, is covered in them. Got a few zoas and a little green bird's nest on the front there. That Laptastria that you can barely see, that orange one, it was covered up by that torch. Blastos on that small rock down there, and that akin is on the big rock there. So one little rock there and that little triangle piece. So this went a lot smoother than I thought it would, just catching the fish and getting them out of there. The water's not cloudy at all. There's a lot of cyano right there. So catch the fish, throw them in there, get the rest of those rocks, and we're going to start moving everything over. You know, I probably should have put on some gloves and some kind of eye protection. Should have a hand guard on this chisel too, but I like living living life on the edge. So, probably gonna need something a little harder under this before I mess up my floor, so stand by. Alright, let's try this again. Got a little piece of board under it. Yep, coming now. What? Now I got a few pieces of pastry. That broke into a nice piece there. There we go. Couple pieces. Yeah, that one on the bottom there was it. So here's that big rock with all those yellow polyps on the back of it. Down here on the front there's some of those red zoas and that little piece of bird's nest. Let's see if I can just pull the bird's nest out. Yeah, of course. Well, it broke, but there's a piece of it. Now I'm going to try to break these red ones. Oh, that went better than expected. Definitely some detritus build up on those rocks. You can see the inside the rocks, I should say. Hope I can get that chisel out. Oh yeah, good deal. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all these yellow polyps, but probably give them away. Wet in that rock. Alright, I'm at a slight loss here. Got all the rocks out, got all the fish except the leopard wrasse. Not sure where that dude's at. I took a skewer, wooden skewer, kind of run through all the sand bed. I haven't seen him. I don't know if maybe he was in a rock somewhere and got in the tank over there. Or I'm gonna give it one more run and see what's going on, where he's at. Now just a regular old maxi jet pump. Gonna drain the sump out with it. And I put an old power head in this tank here to just keep some flow and oxygen going in there. Probably should put a heater, but hopefully they won't be in there much longer. It's about 10 o'clock, so actually I've got a lot done in a short amount of time. Really wish I'd have got just a little bit more water out of the tank, but that MaxiJet 400 doesn't have enough head to get over the rim, so kind of stuck with that for the moment. Now I'm going to start unhooking the electronics and setting them to the side. it's about 11:30. I've done had to change shirts. I was sweating. I don't know why I get so wound up about this, but I just do. About lost it there for a minute. Trying to unhook all the electronics and get it out of the way, and this is what's behind all of it. It's a freaking mess. That cup, I had some salt water in there trying to put my pH and temperature probe in. Knocked it over, of course. All the electronic stuff there. And, you know, it wasn't a full cup, but still, it was some water in there around all that, and I about lost it. Got it all cleaned up. Had to take a break for a little bit, and ready to go back at it now. Let's try to push it that way. You stay right here with me and push that one. Huh? Yeah, we're getting off the towel too. Just a little bit. Alright, that took forever. So it's almost 4 o'clock and everything on the Apex is hooked up, programmed, I think, except the gyre. I'm not really sure how to program that variable speed port on it yet for what I want it to do. I think I just want it to do just a pulse because it's mounted on the back wall. Just a regular pulse. I don't know. I might get it to ramp up and down a little bit, but right now everything is in electronic wise and programmed, so we're about to start trying some Aquascape. Well, quick little start of it. This is a little 30 side, pretty good size little cave. The 50 side, got an opening in there. Need to do something with that back right there to fill that little gap in, but there's the start of it. About to add the sand in here, and I have my rocks in that tank with all the corals and those 2 branching rocks, so here we go with that. 60 pounds of sand in, and it hadn't been packed down yet, but that's a lot more sand than what I thought it was going to be. I like it. Had a small episode there with the Wi-Fi. Had the Wi-Fi plugged into the Apex and no way to turn it on. I don't know what happened. My mind could not figure out how to do that. I ended up having to get an extension cord and turning the Wi-Fi on and then turning that outlet on and then plugging it into the Apex. But for some reason that was just so complicated in my head. But the lights are on, the fans are running, so we're about to start adding some water and my rock and coral. Let her rip. Well, the tank's pretty cloudy. Even the bags say you should rinse the sand. I didn't. That's just not my thing. I think it's not the right thing to do. I think if you rinse it in fresh water and tap water especially, it's going to get some of that trapped on the, you know, unless you allow it to dry out, and I'm not doing that. So it's pretty cloudy right now. That's all my base rock. It's like one or two small pieces of rock that was in my tank. I'm wanting it to clear up just a little bit so I can see where to put my rock corals. I did put 2 cups of sand from my tank to seed this sand bed, and while I done that, I found my leopard wrasse, so he's in there, and I'm sure he's buried in the sand already. So got the power heads running, just the 2 PP8s. I don't have the gyro on yet, but there is some water movement. Hopefully it'll, you know, within an hour or so it'll start to clear up, and I can get my stuff in there.
I need to fill a lot out.
9 o'clock. Fish, corals, rock. I did put some rock down there in the sump, but everything is in here. The tank is still cloudy. Really can't even see those big. Yeah, I put some Facilipore in there. There's a small piece of Hollywood stunner somewhere. I broke a pile of it off, threw it in the yard, threw it in the trash, whatever. Can't give that stuff away around here, but I got rid of all but a tiny piece. But everything's in here. You can't even hardly, there's a torch back there. The rest of the euphyllias, there's the hammer. You can't even really see it. I don't know how good the placement is. Tank is clearing up, but it's still really cloudy. You really can't even tell what the aquascape is, other than this right side is really high. I'm not on a tripod here if you can't tell by all the shakiness, but tank is clearing up. It's really clearing up from back here. Yeah, it looks good. About to finish filling it up and turn everything on in the sump.
You better be looking down bloody. Going in the tires. Glue it on.
Okay.
Where am I hearing down there?
It's down there.
Supposed to do that?
Yeah. Well, 10:15, only about 13 hours later. It's finally clearing up, everything's running. I had a small leak at one of the bulkheads. Got it tightened up with a wrench. That was a pain to get a wrench in there to do. Then I couldn't get my return pump to come on. Somehow, amongst all the stuff, it had come unplugged from the power brick. But everything is running now. Everything is turned on. Pull you off the tripod, come around here and look. Scarred up that bulkhead there on the right. I don't know if you can see that, but that wrench didn't do too well. My little apex cabinet got to put it back together, but it's a mess back there behind it, and there's the brick that was unplugged. So put that back together. You know, you do a decent job making the front panel look good, and it looks like a rat's nest behind it. Fuse lights are on, skimmer's turned on. You know, the water is pretty cloudy, but the skimmer is wide open and it's got foam head built up. That's pretty impressive. So all day long, a little over 13 hours, finally got it going. Try to get some rest, and it should be, you know, cleared up that cloudiness by tomorrow. So that's my way to do it, and that's how it's done for me. Hopefully that aquascape looks pretty decent. I'm not real happy with that hammer over there on the left side, but you know, I'll get that sorted out here in a couple of days. But here it is. So here it is the next day. It's a little after lunch. All the lights are on. Everything's running. Everything seems to be doing well. All the fish are happy. All the corals seem to be adjusting. Everything went pretty smooth for an all-day project. I'm still not real sure about that aquascape. That right side's pretty high. I'm not sure how the water flow is going to be around it. That hammer is settling good on the left side. It's able to take the flow. I'm not sure about that rock in the middle. It kind of looks funny, so that might change. But other than that, everything has worked out pretty good. So I'm very happy with the upgrade. Thanks for watching, guys.